If you want to switch into different Python versions, Miniconda 3, and then bin, there will be activate file. And now when I type which Python, my Python is changed into Miniconda Python. So today is the first session of the Python, and Python is a programming language that we picked in science, and many other people picked it as well because I think it's very simple and it's powerful. It is powerful because it is open source, it's free to use, and so many people publish their tools in it. There are a bunch of free tools that you can just download and install it on your computer and use it. Like, you can use this and you can use that, you can mix them, you can change them. So there's a community of people writing code in Python, which is one of the strongest reasons why we can't leave, because there are so many tools. So first step is installation. I think some of you watched the Python video already, and you've installed like pure Python. That's very good. But installing pure Python has a few problems. So when you install Python on your laptop, you are trying to learn pure Python. But as I mentioned, one of the reasons that we are using Python is there's so many tools that's open to public. But with using pure Python, it is difficult to install what other people shared. So there's a different set of tools in the Python world that helps you to install other people's tools. And when you install just pure Python, it is not installed there. So there's a thing called Anaconda or Miniconda, where they already provide you all the tools for installation of other modules, installation of the tools that other people made, and you can create a number of different environments and so on. So I think it's easier if you can start installing Python using Anaconda or Miniconda. Well, let's go to Chrome and go to Miniconda page. And if you're using Windows, pick up the right bit for you. If you're using Mac, pick up the right chip. But we don't have to download them by clicking, because now we know how to use Linux. So for me, I'm using Mac, and then I'm gonna download the Bash version. What I do is I click on the right button, and then I just copy the address. Copy the address of the link and come back to the shell, and I do wget and then paste the link. Wget was downloading a file from the web, so now we can just download the installation file into our laptop. See, probably your Anaconda took a lot more to download than this. Miniconda is very light. It's only 80 megabytes or something, 70 or something. Is very light, and it's easy to install. So now you have Miniconda bash file. So you can just bash the Miniconda installation file. Okay. When you do type enter, then it's gonna ask you if you agree to their rules and everything. You scroll down by pressing enter. And then at the end, you type yes. You type yes. When you type yes, it's going to ask you where you want to install your Anaconda. Miniconda. Then you just give your location or leave it as this. And then just press enter. I'm getting an error because I already have the same Miniconda at the same location. Once you're set, you will now have Miniconda or Anaconda. So which Python? So it's telling me I'm using my Python. If I just call Python, my Python is inside Anaconda bin Python. So I'm not using system Python. I'm using the Python that I installed using Anaconda. Okay? If you're using system Python, all the tools that you installed in the Anaconda or Miniconda would not work here. So if you install a tool in your Python Miniconda or Anaconda, this is only available here. It's not available in the Python in other places. So that's why I keep doing which Python or which whatever in order to check which Python executable that you're using. Okay, and then say if you have different Pythons installed, different Miniconda installed here, different Anaconda installed there. If you want to switch into different Python versions, you do this. You do source, and I have another Miniconda in my home directory, Miniconda 3, and then bin. If you go on the bin, there will be activate file. If you do this, And now when I type which Python, my Python is changed into Miniconda Python, not the Anaconda Python now. Okay? This is how you switch between different Python. So in the server, you have the Python that Aris installed. You have Python that we use in PNL. You can even install your own Python. And you can move around between different Pythons using source. Okay, let me go back to my Anaconda Python. And the source is on the home, on the opt. Anaconda, there will be bin and activate file. If I do this, now my Python is back to Anaconda Python. This is how you keep dealing with different Pythons installed in your server. This will be quite important for our RAs because when you try to install a new tool in the PNL Python, it's not going to work. You won't be able to install anything because it is locked. Only for few people can install things to the PNL Python in order to protect the versions and everything. So you will have to install Miniconda on yourself, on your ID in some places and install tools there. So this is how you switch between different Anaconda, Miniconda versions. Okay, I'm gonna switch back to my Miniconda Python. Let me just double check. There's Miniconda Python. Okay, so I want to check if I have a tool called Jupyter. I want to check which Jupyter. If I have this, I'm good to go. If you don't have this, you can install this using conda install Jupyter. So conda is installed together when you install Miniconda or Anaconda, and it helps you to install stuff like Jupyter. Okay, I'm going to assume all of you have Jupyter Notebook. So now what you do is you do Jupyter space notebook and then type enter. Oops, typo. So when I do this, it's going to print a random message like this, but it's going to open your default web browser and show you something like this, depending on where you executed the Jupyter Notebook. Then what you do is you click on new button here, and then on the notebook you will see Python 3. Click that. So if you haven't followed up to this stage and you are within the network, good news, our hospital has a Jupyter Notebook server. You open your Chrome and type this. You must be in the any connect in order to use this, or within our cluster. Type jupyterhub.partners.org. If you are inside lab, this will work on your computer without installing anything. So open your Chrome and then type this. And when you type this, I will see this. And this is quite useful for people within the network. If you click that, you already have Python set up for you that you can access anywhere if you are inside the VPN. So click on a new button and then click on Python 3. Then you will have your Python. But again, we had our system Python, Aris Python, our Miniconda Python, Anaconda Python. This Python is what Aris provides you. So if you want to call the functions that you installed in different Pythons, that's not going to work here. But today we will do just basic Python, so it's okay. And I'm just letting you there's a function like this. So let's define A again. Now A is 1. Let's type shift and enter. Shift and enter. It's going to run the cell and it's going to create another cell below it. So you can type new command. Let's press it again. Shift enter. It's going to run the cell. Let's go down, create a new cell that you can type on. Let's try pressing ESC. Then the color just changed. I'm pressing enter and then ESC, enter and then ESC. So when I press enter, I'm going into insert mode, writing something. When I press ESC, I'm going into normal mode that I can move around. It's the same as Vim. And in the Vim, how did you go up? It's K, J, K, J. To go into insert mode again, press I. Type something, get out by ESC, move around. Okay? It's very, very useful if you know simple Vim keys, and it applies to many things. Okay? In Vim, there's a line delete, which is double D, DD. I'm going to do DD in the normal mode. DD, it deletes the line. DD deletes the line. Okay? I'm going to press Shift Enter to run the A equal 1, and then I'm going to now print it. Print, open brackets, A. I want to run it by Shift Enter. We already did this in Bash. Variable is a container that can put in any information. Okay, now your A is a variable. But the difference in Python compared to Bash is we don't have to put the $sign. It knows what your variable is when you just type A. Then what happens if you type B without telling them? It says B is not defined. So by default, Bash, when you type something, by default it thought it was a string. But Python, when you type something, by default it thinks is variable. Okay? Let's define B as haha. I'm pressing Shift Enter, and let's see what B is. Print B. I'm gonna do Shift Enter. Haha. Okay. And good thing with Jupyter Notebook is that you don't have to print. You can just do B and then do Shift Enter. And it just returns you what the variable was, like the shell. And look at the history. And it saves all the history like this in Jupyter Notebook. So you and other people can know what you typed in the Jupyter Notebook and what you're trying to do. And let's try clicking File and go to Download As, and then click on HTML. If you click on this, Download As HTML file, it's going to download the file, which looks like this. So it summarizes all your history of commands and the outputs into a HTML file that you can share to other people. Okay? This is a good place to learn good platform, to learn simple Python, and see your output straight away after you type something. Okay, so that was how to install Python, how to open Jupyter Notebook. And when I refer to Jupyter Notebook, and when I move around really fast, just know that I'm using Vim keys. And this is a good place to start learning about Python.